Have you ever wondered what could actually challenge the dominance of the US dollar in terms of global trade? Well, the possibility of the BRICS actually doing that is very real over the long term. We're talking about Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Does that sound interesting? Well, let's get into it. My name is David Quintieri, and I have been taking the complex and making it simple for well over a decade. Here at the Money GPS, that's what it's all about. Information flows each and every day. There's too much to cover, so I take those hours a day and I squeeze it down and make it real easy, real simple for you to understand. And today, we're talking about the BRICS. Let's talk about this. BRICS is an association of 5 emerging national economies that have been cooking up something interesting. They are considering creating their own common currency for trade amongst themselves. Now, this isn't new, but it's gaining momentum recently. The deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma recently announced that Russia is leading the charge on this front. And Brazil's president, Lula, is also on board. He asked, why should all countries base their trade on the dollar? He literally asked that question. And so we see this. We've got these countries. But on top of that, approximately 20 other countries want to join into the BRICS. So don't just think it's these 5. We've got to understand the sheer population of these countries, as well as a growing percentage of the global GDP, will be just within these few countries. China, of course, being at the center of it all. But wait a minute. Why should we care about this? Why don't we get into that right now? The BRICS countries collectively have a GDP larger than the United States and the entire G7 combined. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, that is no small feat. So if they decided to use their own currency, and let's just call it the bric, for trade, it could potentially rock the boat of the US dollar status as the king of global trade. So imagine China and Russia doing business. They might use this currency. And you might have Brazil and China, for instance. China's buying soybeans that Brazil provides. Maybe they don't want to use the US dollar. They want to do it within their own. And so they can do this, and it will have an impact on the US dollar. Not tomorrow, but it will. And we look at this over a long period of time. Why wouldn't that be a game changer, though? I think it's really important to see from both sides of this, okay? So as we get into that, make sure you hit that like button as we move in, okay? It's right down below. Click that to help support this video. If we go into this and we understand that it's important to note, while this idea sounds big, it sounds fantastic for those countries and of course all the corporations that will be able to benefit from it, it's not without its challenges. So let's be real about this. The US dollar is currently used in a whopping 84% of cross-border trade right now. In contrast, the Chinese yuan, another currency that's considered a major currency, it's only used in about 4.5%. And it's still unclear how fully on board other BRICS nations are with the proposal. So they don't necessarily all want to do it. And it's not necessarily they're going to drop everything and just start using this new currency. So we got to, pay attention to that. There's a twist here. India and China are part of the BRICS. They're already making moves. India is trying to replace US dollar with the Indian rupee as a global reserve currency. China, on the other hand, has its own commodity exchange in Shanghai, where contracts are traded solely in Chinese renminbi. And many countries are saying, let's do business. I believe it was France, if I'm not mistaken, just recently. I did a video about it. France actually used their exchange, did business. So it's not as if it's just within the BRICS. They're setting up infrastructure everywhere. And get this, there could be a deal in the works between China and Saudi Arabia to trade oil in renminbi, as I talked about before. You got to understand how big that is. Saudi Arabia. China's buying so much oil from Saudi Arabia, and so they're saying, let's do business in our own currency. And Saudi Arabia has said specifically, why can't we do it in other currencies? They said that. That's not a some hype that's actually real. So you know what this means? This could push back the US dollar from the global oil territory. Now that is massive. That's huge. This is something we haven't seen for many decades. As soon as the almighty petrodollar came to existence, that was something that really solidified the position of the US dollar on top of everything else it had. But what's the bottom line? The US dollar has long held the reins of global trade. We know it has that hegemony, it's got that monopoly. But it's not without its critics. And there are valid concerns about its influence over global finance. If BRICS does go ahead with their own currency, it could be announced as soon as this summer at the BRICS summit in South Africa. And that could be a major turning point in the world of global finance. I will be covering all of it, documenting every piece of that. So you want to hit that subscribe button so that I can give you all those details as they do arise. It's very important that we realize how much depth there is to this, conversation. It's not one-sided. It isn't. And I try to bring you from both sides here. I'm trying to bring you the balance. So you get the information you need to know so you can make the right decisions. I think that the next aspect here is that we are able to prepare for our retirement, that we can manage our finances, that we have all this information available to us. It's right here on the screen. So click that, watch this video. I'll see you right over there.